Okay, here we go. Well, thanks for doing this. I'm super excited to chat and hear some of your thoughts after we've been working together for a little bit. But just to start us off, what is your name? What are you doing currently for work? And how did we kind of come to coaching together?
My name is Brian Kingston. I live in Vancouver, Canada. Originally from Ireland, been living here for almost 4 years. And um, I have worked in software sales for the past 6 years. Previous to that, financial sales, and previous to that, the nonprofit industry. And now I'm starting my own small business in coaching and consulting. And um, I initially heard about what you do, Fyfe, back last year, so like maybe 18 months ago, when
Hmm.
when I was going through a transition in work, and then we started to work together about like 6 months ago, I think. Um, and yeah, heard about it through a friend, and yeah,
Right. And what was going on for you before we actually started working together?
I went through a burnout experience at work. Um, I was a top performer in my team in sales, and I had applied and gotten a promotion, and I got the promotion and I capitulated, and I couldn't explain it, but uh, I just went through an experience of intense burnout. Sending an email or hopping on a call, previous things that had been so easy to me, there was just incredibly intense anxiety and sleepless nights around it. And I needed help. And when we initially chatted, that actually wasn't the right time for me to work with you. I was actually, there was too much going on. And I needed to just take time off completely. But a lot of the things that you were saying really resonated with me. And I think like the next year, I think it was like the spring of the next year, I had come back to work, gone back into my previous role, was being successful, although my company had just laid off 100 people. So it was a big moment for me to realize, okay, well, what do I want to be doing? Because at the end of the day, um, it felt like we were expendable. So I wanted to, it really put things in perspective for me. And especially having gone through that burnout experience where I was putting so much effort and energy and emotions into my workplace, and then had come back to work and was doing really well again. And then they laid off a bunch of people. So I felt like this is my chance to make a big career transition. And and I wanted like a thought partner to work with. Um, and also, yeah, your knowledge of like the saboteur or some of those like gremlins that can come up, I think were really useful to me. But really, what I wanted was just a sounding board, someone to ask really good questions to help me kind of reflect on myself how I would kind of take this next stage of my career. So a year after that intense experience, I was back to work and life was functioning really well. Although I saw a transition on the horizon, and working with you then just clicked and seemed like the right time.
Great. Yeah, and just to clarify that a little bit and checking in with you on this.
Yeah.
So that you went through burnout, you came back to work, and then there was some upcoming uncertainty around what happens next with this kind of transition. Um, what was it that you were looking for specifically in that transition period when you decided to engage with me as a coach?
Well, what was I looking for specifically? I wanted someone to work with that could hold space for me to kind of have a conversation with myself around what I wanted to achieve next. And, I go to therapy. I'm a big believer in therapy for everybody, even if you're not in crisis. And I get massive value from working with my therapist. And often that's to understand what's going on or what has happened in the past, or understand. For me, it's a way to understand um, and to process different intense emotions. For me, working with you, it was like looking into the future, looking forward. Now that I have this even keel and a lot of pillars and foundations in my life, it was how do I take that next step? And I suppose I wanted someone that was outside of my personal life to be um, helping to guide me because, parents or my partner or friends um, have the best of intentions, but at the end of the day, their relationship is whatever that relationship is, and they're not trained to kind of guide me in my life. And the conversation with them are very useful, but often it's a two-way conversation. I kind of wanted to be selfish and somewhere I could just focus completely on myself. Um, and so, yeah, thought partner, guide, someone to ask good questions, someone to like push me a little bit, like maybe in different directions. And I think throughout our relationship, we found at the beginning, all I wanted was someone to just chat with about where I was going. I didn't really want too many action steps or anything. And I think we found our groove very quickly. And then in the last few months, I've found the need for, and I've been very motivated to make action steps. And I've really appreciated our relationship kind of shifting into that more action orientatedness. Um, so yeah, that kind of is a roundabout way of describing what I was looking for. Does that answer your question? Is there anything else you might like me to focus on?
I think that's good for now. We
Yeah.
might kind of loop back to that with a couple other questions. But there's always a moment for clients and potential clients just before you actually decide to engage and make a payment. What was the main doubt or insecurity or hesitation that was like in front of you before you actually committed and jumped in?
Well, I was on your, I think, like email list, and I got an email, and it came at the right time, and I just booked a call with you straight away because I could see this transition happening in work, and I think the fact that we had chatted before and that we had a friend in common, for me, there was a lot of trust already built up, and I had liked the stuff that you were putting out there that I would read periodically. And then when we chatted and you kind of explained your pricing structure and how the relationship would work, I think for me, I think what changed was that I was starting to look at these type of things as an investment in myself rather than a cost. So if I want to build this business into a successful, um, life-sustaining, abundant business, there's going to be certain investments that I need to make, and the investment in myself and who I am, bringing myself to the business, felt like a foundational pillar of that investment. And I'm also going to be working one-to-one and in groups with clients as a coach. So it felt like also important to be practicing what I preach and to be paying for the service that I'm going to be delivering. Like if you go to a doctor and they say, I never go to a doctor, you're not going to trust that doctor, um, and I wanted to experience what it was like to be a client as well, and to kind of step into that. And so for me, it was just looking at it in that way. I had just gotten a severance package and I had a chunk of savings. And after having gone through that burnout period a year previous, this felt like one of the best ways I could spend my money, because that burnout experience gave me great perspective in how serious things can get when you're not doing enough of things that fulfill you in your life. And so I wanted to invest in a way in something that would help me to get more of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
That really lands for me. Just personally, it's like I've gone through burnout myself a couple times, and often we kind of look at, oh, it's just the way it is. Those are just the factors in my life, and I have to learn how to manage it. But it's like, what do you do to start to design your life in a way that actually aligns with your strengths, your gifts, your values, what you want out of things, um, and actively pursuing something that's going to help you do that.
Yeah,
So,
and people say burnout is being overworked, but I read something that said burnout is actually not doing enough of the things that light you up and give you your that life force, and that meaning and purpose. And after going through that experience and seeing how burnout really affected my mental health, and it got to a really serious stage where I took a few months off work, which has never happened to me before in that intense way. It just was like, well, this is very important. Um, it's not a nice to have. It's actually essential for me. Uh, so that's that's what I was. That's what made this very important. A very important like investment for me. Yeah.
yeah. And I love how you're thinking through that, because there are a lot of people that come in and it's like a cost. It's something that's out of my pocket. It's like, how is this going to pay off for you, not just in the immediate future, but like the long term as well? What's that going to do for your health, your relationships, your finances, whatever that is, that's
Mm.
important to you. Um, and like, where are you now? So what's changed since we've started working together? What wins have you had? What are some of the small little insights that have come out of the sessions that have had a big difference for you?
So okay, like on the surface level, I left my job, and took a few months off, did a creative writing retreat that actually you had recommended, which I was looking for a retreat type setting in British Columbia for since I moved here really, and I hadn't found one. And then you knew that I was into writing, and I went to that, and I've self-published 2 books since that writers retreat, which was only a few months ago, which even feels weird saying that. Um, and that retreat turned out to be way more than just a writer's retreat. It was like a personal development, tapping into our inner wisdom. There was meditation, yoga, organic food. So I'm eternally grateful for you for putting that in front of me. And I think you did a lot of work to understand me to know that that was something I would like to do. Um, and then I've set up my own business. Set up, have my first few clients, have my first few paying clients. Um, my website is currently being constructed, although I do have links on to my different social medias where people can book a call with me. So like I'm already out there as a coach. Um, yeah, like one big thing was when a few of my friends heard what it is that I had been studying for the last year, which is that's my cert, my coaching cert. They had said, "Okay, I'd love to do some coaching with you. I mean, I'd love to help you out in starting your business, and also maybe I would benefit too." Um, and you had said to me, "That's great. Just start charging something, whether it's it could be anything, but it just changes the relationship, and allows the person to see it with more value, and it also gives you the permission to step outside of the friend or acquaintance hat and ask the difficult coaching questions that's going to help the person guide themselves in a new direction." So that was a massive insight that you gave me, and it just gave me the confidence to start charging for the services that I provide. And even the fact that I have these certifications and all these hours of training and all these hours of coaching, um, I needed someone to just kind of like give me that guidance. So I suppose that's a lot of like material changes in my life. Um, I think, the impetus to put myself out there a little bit more has been a result of us working together. And we were speaking before we started recording about like putting stuff out there that's maybe not perfect or not finished. And that's something that I try and live by as well. And I think I've done more so since we've worked together. So I also really appreciate that. Um, and often the things that we focus on are not always career related. You know, they could be in my personal relationships with family or my partner or friends. Um, and I've enjoyed being conscious about sometimes in a coaching session, I want to reflect on something that's different to maybe the reason that we started working together. And I like that flexibility too.
What's the impact that has on you being able to dive into those different areas as they show up?
Well, I found this, and I find my clients also say this from me as well when I work with them, is often what you do really well is you ask a question, and it's sometimes just, it's like a, I don't want to say a punch in the gut because that sounds painful, but it's because, but because they're not painful, but it's like someone just like lifts you up and just turns you and faces you in a different direction. That's what some of your questions sound like to me. And I think you have great silence in your sessions where I can just talk things out and kind of come to my own realizations. I think that's one of the big benefits is often I just find myself answering one of your questions, and in answering, I come to some realizations that I had inside me but hadn't tapped into. And that's hard with a partner or with friends and family because no one wants to be around somebody that's talking about themselves the whole time. And I suppose that's what I pay you for, is that I can be that little bit more selfish in our sessions, and I can be me focused because the benefit of me giving myself this time in our sessions allows me to bring a better sense of self to those other areas of my life. Um, so it's even just in an hour focused on me and what I want to achieve in my life, I find valuable.
Yeah, there's so much beauty and fun in allowing that like create first of all creating the container and the space to step into, because everybody's so busy these days. I find it so hard to actually like have a boundary up to be like, this is for me to explore what I need to focus on, big picture. So one, just creating the space. But for somebody listening, they might be like, so this guy just asks a question and doesn't do anything, right? But I think there's a lot of really cool things that show up that I could never have expected. Like I can hear something or something you say, and I'm like, what's that about? And it's this generative conversation where something new gets created that shows up that would never have opened up had we not had the space and time.
Mm. And I like the way you bring your natural curiosity to it as well, because you'd be like, oh, you said this. Like one time, um, you asked me a question like when you do this thing that you're talking about, how does that benefit you in your life? And I was like, it feels like I can breathe underwater. And then I went on to say something else, and you're like, hold on a second, what the hell did you just say? That is incredibly beautiful. What does that mean? Like and you were like, you took this kind of natural curiosity approach. And then I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of a cool thing to say. What do I mean by that? Well, I kind of mean that, no matter what's happening on the surface, I'm kind of like peacefully under the water, and I don't need like a tank. I can like, I have this like kind of almost superpower. And by you asking that question, I could kind of tap into something I had said that was offhand, but actually had a bit of insight into it. So I thought that was really cool. And I think one of the things I really like about our sessions is often you'll say, oh, this thing is just coming up for me, and I'm just going to say it. And like, if it lands, cool. If it's not, we can move on. And I think that's kind of one of the unique things that you bring to our sessions is um, it's not this dispassionate observer where you're trying to say the right thing, and you bring yourself to the sessions, which to me feels like genuine and authentic, and often like adds a unique perspective to something that I've been maybe rattling around in my brain for weeks.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been a blast to work with you as a coach. Like I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a ton from our sessions, and I'm constantly learning from my own clients too. For anybody that might be on the fence, what would you say to them? And who would you recommend this coaching for?
So this is something that I've been reflecting on a little bit. If anybody's on the fence, slow down, uh, and really reflect on why it is you're looking to do this, and why it is that this might benefit you, and why you're doing it, and who it could impact in your life, and do it when it's the right time for you. Like what I'm learning more and more is like there's no shoulds or there's no have tos. So, and I say that with like, with real intention. Like one of the reasons why I really wanted to work with you is because when I said it wasn't the right time, you respected that, and then I could come back around in my own time. So I think it's very important for me to honor that with anybody that's on the fence, is they can honor that within themselves. Um, and when they start working with you, it'll be the right time and they'll feel that. Um, and I think encouraging someone to look at it like an investment in themselves is a very important way to do that, and maybe tap into what that would mean for them in their life. Because I think they'll get more benefit from working with you when they have those values already dialed in. Because like I feel like that's what has made our working together so powerful. Um,
And the ever present coach in me wants to put a little and in there, which is I do challenge people. Like if you're coming from a place of scarcity or fear or like resistance to coaching for some reason, that might be something to explore, and actually the reason to move into coaching. So if it's like if you're avoiding something and you're like, oh, I don't want to go into coaching because of X, Y, and Z, but deep down there's something there that's pulling you towards it that's going to benefit you. So just distinguishing and discerning, like there might be a bit of that like self-sabotaging, avoiding aspect. And at the same time, you want to honor what makes sense and feels right too. So it's just there. It's a dance of like, where
yes,
are you on that spectrum and what's going to serve you?
yeah, like if somebody is on the fence about working with you because they're scared what's going to come up that they don't want to face, that's absolutely the time when working with someone would be really beneficial, and working with you would be really beneficial, because that's when there's something lurking around that needs to be faced. um yeah, that's the exact time to work with you. If you feel like you can't give the time and the space to it because there's too much going on in your life, like at least for me, that was an okay time to say um another time. So it's, and I think that's one of the benefits of that we've worked together, is I'm coming clearer on when I could tap into those moments. And so for someone that's unsure of that, maybe working for a short period of time to kind of tap into that might be beneficial for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for what we've experienced so far, and the I've really enjoyed working with you. Um, and also, um, yeah, like part of this is also all practicing what I preach, because I'm also a coach. So, um, uh, doing this for you, like there's some way this is serving me as well. I'm not sure exactly how it is, but like I want to call that out too, because uh, one thing my dad said to me is he's worked as a coach for 30 years, and what he finds with his clients or people in general is they often compartmentalize their life in a way that says, okay, this is where I'm a dad, this is where I am a coach with my career, or this is where I'm a salesperson, and this is where I'm a sports person, this is where I'm a traveler, this is where I'm a writer. And that may be useful for so many reasons, but often that closes the doors to opportunities to us because we're not bringing our whole self to the situation. And I think one thing I've learned from working, that's one thing I've learned from working, one of the things I've learned from working with you, and from him as well is it's been cool to work with you as a coach because I've learned so much, and I hope we get to collaborate in some way in the future. And and yeah, it was cool to hear all the things that I've done since working with you because it's actually quite a lot now that I think about it. So I'm excited to see where the next 3 to 6 months takes me.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful for me on my end too. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Fyfe.
Thank you.